Good morning, everyone. Stuck behind the good old CDTA bus. But anyway, that's Capital District Transport Authority, something like that. Today we're going to talk about something that just recently came to mind because of a place I went. Just kind of like the snowball of time and regulation and laws and complexity of society. So this is kind of an interesting one, I think. So I'll give you the context of why I'm bringing this up. This video is probably not going to come out until January or February, but I got to pre-record stuff because I live in New York State. Anywho, but I went to a place this weekend, and I won't name names because I don't want to get them in trouble, honestly. As sad as this is going to be to say after I get done with my little rant. But anyway, it's a place where you can camp and you can off-road and you can just have a good time. It's in Vermont, so you can probably piece it together when I give you the context, which is fine, whatever. Anyway, it's called let's call it an off-road park, if you will. Okay. Anyway, at this off-road park, first you get there, and there's a gravel driveway, and you just pull in and go up. Go find a campsite. They're not numbered. They're not labeled in any way. There's no specific spot you got to park in it. You just kind of go to a campsite and find one that suits your needs, whatever those might be. Okay, cool. So once you've done that, you just unload your stuff, and you let your dog off the leash. They can go run around and play with the other dogs and say hi to everybody else who's there. And you just kind of go do what you got to do. Go off-road and whatever. If you bring a chainsaw, let you cut your own trails. I mean, it's just very, kind of just whatever works, And it's old school, man. It's really old school. And I absolutely loved it because, I don't know, it got me thinking, everywhere you go nowadays, and listen, I get that people don't want, people want their stuff tore up, and people who own a piece of property and campground and whatever it is, want others to be respectful of it, and I appreciate that. But what was interesting was everybody was this headlight's so bright it's blinding me, and this car's chrome. But everyone was super respectful, while also being very free. Nobody's littering, nobody was doing tearing up stuff that the gravel for the campsites, for example. Everyone was just having fun, having fun in a respectful, free way that wasn't oppressive to others around them, it wasn't affecting anybody else negatively. I thought that was really cool. And I don't know, you go to most campgrounds and most off-road parks and whatever, and there's a whole, anywhere you go in life, there's a whole freaking 8.5 by 11 sheet worth of rules. Sometimes there's more than that. And it's just, and again, it's I'm not trying to sound oh, I can never follow a rule, and all rules are terrible and whatever, but it's just I don't know, there's something about giving people the freedom and ability to make a responsible adult decision that I think makes people make a responsible adult decision sometimes, not all the time. And on those edge cases where somebody doesn't, I don't know, I just feel you deal with that individually rather than taking it out on the rest of people, right? Something bad happens, especially, I'm going to speak to America just because I know it better, of course, but something bad happens, and rather than address that problem individually, which we will, right? But then we also love to oh, we can't let this happen again. That's a favorite phrase, right? We can't let this happen again. And hey, certain things you can't let happen again. But certain things, honestly, to not restrict the freedom of others, you actually can let happen again. It wasn't that big of a deal, it wasn't something that really, it needed to be corrected and fixed and couldn't go on, but it wasn't something that was detrimental to that group or society or whatever, right? So, I don't know. And the thing that I thought about, though, as we were there, just enjoying ourselves. There was no worries. There was no thing in the back of your head oh, am I breaking XYZ rule? Am I doing blah, blah, blah? No, it was just am I being a generally decent human being and being respectful to this property? If the answer is yes, keep going. If it's no, stop and do something else. And with that in mind, it just, honestly, like, this sounds stupid and kind of cliche, but I just felt so free. Like, it just felt good. Like, it was like awesome that we could do that. So I really appreciated that experience, and it just got me thinking, like, rewind even 100 years, 1920, right? 22. Well, Great Depression, but other than that, just the level of regulation that didn't exist back then. I mean, it's a massive difference. The amount of regulation then to now. It's like, I mean, there were whole government departments that didn't exist. I mean, most of the government departments didn't exist, for example. And at any time you add government and employees and everything else, you add bureaucracy, inevitably. It's just like, that's what happens. And it's not all bad, don't get me wrong. I'm not like an anti-government guy. I'm not anti-rules. In fact, if I had an off-road park, I would have my own rules, probably too, to some degree. But like, you go to certain places, like any state campground in New York. And obviously New York is definitely a more, government-heavy state, of course. But you go to a state campground, you go park your crap. They have very strict car limits, very strict noise ordinances, very strict, all this different stuff, right? So, okay, you get through all those rules. Not a huge deal, you get through all those rules. Then, honest to God, every 2 hours, if even that, the DEC or the little park ranger people drive by and just kind of check on you, just kind of look at what you're doing. And it's like, you know what? I don't even go to them anymore. Because it's like, I don't want to be I'm not a lab rat. I don't need to be observed every 2 hours to make sure I'm not screwing something up. Okay? Like, it's just ridiculous. It's just not fun when they're going to treat you like a child. I'm sick of that. I'm not doing it. So, we go to there's these freebie campsites, just off of gravel roads and stuff up in the Adirondacks. We go to those. And guess what? We don't destroy them. We park our shit, we have fun, hang out, do whatever, clean up after ourselves, and we go on about our life. And the next person does the same thing in that side. And that's the way it should be. And out west, I think there's more of this culture, and even other parts of the Northeast, outside of New York. But, people throw around the term nanny state. And, it's kind of a more liberal-minded person would be like, oh, that's just a conservative, cliche eye-roll statement. And maybe it is to some degree, and I'm not like a super conservative guy by any means, but honestly, like, the more places I go and things I do, that is kind of a great way to describe it. Like, the government literally wants to be your nanny, like, be in control of your life and just tell you what to do and how to do it. And it's just not the way to live, in my opinion. There's nothing better than freedom, in my personal opinion. I'm not trying to make this political, because it honestly isn't. Like, you can believe in freedom and still believe in different politics than somebody else. But the key is, I don't know, it's so refreshing to be able to just go out and do something and not have 35,000 rules to try to follow. And try to abide to that they just don't even make sense. That's the other thing. Like some of these places have rules for the sake of rules. Your dog needs 35 different freaking vaccine cards and shots and this and that just to go to a campground. Now, I get it. You don't want other dogs getting bit and getting rabies or whatever. Like, I appreciate that as a dog owner. Okay, fine. But, like, even as a dog owner, I love my dog to death. I'd kind of just rather roll the dice, and if he gets bit, we'll deal with it then. Like, I don't mean to sound crass, but it's just like, I'm just not that, like, I'm not like, I don't live my life in paranoid fear of just every little thing that might happen. I don't know. I just, like, if the dog gets bit, we'll break him apart and we'll figure out what the hell to do. Like, I don't know. My dog could get bit freaking anywhere where they don't require shots and stuff. So I don't know what's so special about that one campground in that one place. Now, that's not a New York thing, that's everywhere. But Yeah, I don't know. And then the problem is what spawns a lot of this. What spawns a lot of this is everybody's super suit happy, of course. And so that ruins it for everyone. You get one multi-million dollar lawsuit against a small business, and it's like, understandably, they're like, you know what? Okay, maybe I'll stay open, but I'm going to institute so many rules that this can't happen again. And then that just hurts the experience. So people need to say to themselves, all right, I'm doing XYZ potentially dangerous activity. If I get hurt, that's on me. And I need to have insurance. I need to have whatever it is you think you need to have. Not just sue the landowner or sue the, venue or whatever. Like, that's not the way to solve all your problems. Make somebody else pay for it. Don't do the thing if you're not willing to accept the consequences. Don't ride a motorcycle if you're not willing to accept the fact you could fall off a motorcycle. It can happen. It's like you gotta deeply think about these things and just accept reality, or you're lying to yourself. If there's anywhere for me to get hit, it's right here. I'm sending it. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I love the modern world. I don't mean to sound so negative. I really do. I just wish people were a little more just kind of live and let live. Free, just don't be an idiot. And I think things would weed themselves out. I think that's how it worked in the old days. It was kind of like a Darwinism thing, like whatever you want to call it. But people just did dumb stuff. And somebody put them in check on an individual basis, however that was done, and then they didn't do dumb stuff anymore. And for some of them, they didn't do dumb stuff because their heart wasn't beating anymore. And unfortunately, it had to come to that. It still does to this day, of course, right? We put people in jail and everything all the time. So, that has to happen sometimes. And then we put people in jail for a freaking, felony marijuana possession charge, which is what I'm getting at. That's BS, right? So it goes both ways. But my point is, right? Very loose laws. Minimal loose laws with, I'm going to say, strict enforcement, right? You have only the laws you absolutely need, but you take those laws very seriously. Murder, rape, theft, like minimal laws, but you freaking catch somebody, right? You make it so that people are held accountable and they do really dumb stuff like that. And I think that's how you run a truly free but also control and not anarchist society. Because, that's no good either, right? Anywho, guys, I'll stop ranting on this topic, but this should be a fun one. Thanks for watching. God bless America. See you in the next one.